right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll give everyone just a minute or two to join us, and then we'll get started. Thank you for joining.
Or Texas allergy season.
All part of the joy. We have the yellow tide here in Georgia as well, which my kids are using to write our dogs' names on our vehicles and put their handprints. I'm like, why? Why do you have to do that?
Because they're kids. They're kids.
That's true. It's true. What they don't anticipate is the weekend is coming and somebody's going to get to wash the car. They like it though.
That's playtime washing the car.
I was going to say they do like that. Give everybody just one more minute and then we'll jump in. So it's raining here today. It's supposed to rain all day. Hopefully the internet will stay with us.
Oh, yeah, don't jinx the internet.
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
Please don't. You just I'm gonna set up just in case. I'm gonna set up my hotspot. This has been a real problem. For like 3 weeks ago, I've had on and off really bad internet. So fingers crossed, fingers crossed. And
Well, it's 10:03, so shall we jump in?
let's do it.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this webinar. We are talking about maximizing profitability in a connected ecosystem. And here with me today, I have Curtis Govan and Steve Higgins. So as you can see here, Curtis is the president of the Americas for floLIVE. He's an accomplished leader with 25 years of broad experience and expertise in technology and leadership, business development, and sales. He has most recently been the GM and Global VP Dealer of Heavy Equipment for Uptake, an industry leader in industrial artificial intelligence and IoT. Prior to joining Uptake, Curtis spent almost 12 years with Cisco Jasper, where he held several roles, with the most recent being Head of Global Business Sales Development and Regional Managing Director for Canada. Thank you for joining us, Curtis.
Thank you. Thank you.
We also have Steve Higgins. He's the CEO of MobileWare. Steve has more than 20 years of experience in managing large-scale operations and developing projects with a fast-paced business environment. He's a seasoned corporate executive, successful entrepreneur, and a former officer in the United States Air Force. His cross-departmental expertise and team-building skills and international leadership candidate enabled him to take organizations to new levels of success. Steve is currently the CEO of MobileWare, an enterprise data and IoT solution provider serving Fortune 500 and enterprise clients. Thank you for joining us, Steve, and thank you for your service. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lisa.
Okay. So as you all can, with any webinar, please go ahead and submit questions as they occur to you. We're going to have a discussion here, and at the end, we'll open up to your questions as well. So feel free to type those right into your chat option there for anyone that's listening for us, and we'll dive right in.
And thank you, Elisa. I'll start off maybe a bit of a comment. One, I'm listening to my bio and say, maybe I should cut that down to 15 years. It's starting to get pretty long, but certainly glad to be here. I'm looking forward to the conversation today. You know, one of the key challenges that we've seen in the IoT industry, whether we're looking at mobile network operators, MVNOs, ISPs, or enterprises, is around maximizing profitability, our topic today. When you look at the decrease in usage pricing, when you look at relatively expensive legacy systems, and you look at the complexities associated with bringing all the pieces together, one of the things that we see is that profitability is typically the thing that suffers, and it's the thing that people are most focused on to try to build businesses like we're building, like our friends here, Steve at MobileWare building. So looking forward to this conversation today. A little bit about floLIVE. We are a UK-based IoT software as a service company. We have a cloud-native suite of IoT software as a services there, and they're all designed, built, deployed, and now they're managed by floLIVE engineers. One of the key things that we talk about is that we own our technology here. And so you see here to the right here, under one platform, you have a full suite of services that meet the needs of mobile network operators, MVNOs, IoT service providers, enterprises, and even OEMs. All of these services, starting with the global connectivity, we have our own core network that includes 5G. We bring that together with a holistic CMP that also includes not only IoT EUICC, but also consumer EUICC, also supporting the multi-IMSI platform. And then we have something new that we've introduced for our mobile network operators, but also some MVNOs use this, and we use it ourselves, is our MVNE platform that enables mobile network operators to empower MVNOs with the type of solutions that we're going to talk about here today. All of this is all consumed in the same way. You can white label all of our services there. We have REST API that connects into the services, so customers like Steve can bring the information that we have into their systems in real time. And then we have a world-class support team. Literally everyone on our support team, I would say, are tier 3 support. They have access to the systems. They can pull detailed logs. They can analyze it there. So 24/7, 365, you have access to really tier 3 support on our side. And one of the things that we talk about as well, just to give people confidence in what we've done, is in the past, a few years ago, Ericsson selected our solution as the successor for their DCP solution that they had. So a lot of technology, a lot of power into the solution there. And then if you look at kind of the next slide there, Lisa, for focusing in on global connectivity, our hyperlocal global connectivity service is where we deeply integrate our core network that's distributed around the world with over 40 MNOs. The key here is that not only that we're connecting with the MVNOs or the MNOs, but we're doing it in a local basis there with the distributed core network. One of the things that we're absolutely certain of is that no other company in the world is proactively building a global core network solution for IoT. And we have this all over the world connected into our mobile network operators there to provide that localization of service there. And what we have here is that you'll see in the corner there with the new piece there, not only does it support cellular today, in the very near future, we'll have the Release 17 non-terrestrial network supported, so we can do NB-IoT over a satellite and virtually give coverage in every place in the world, whether that's on land or sea or in between. We'll be able to connect those all with a single solution, and from a back-end perspective that allows you to control all of those services with one platform that has a multi-tenant, it's multi-tenant supported, it has multi-tiers, and also has our multi-IMSI with the EUICC support with us there. And the key thing for customers is that it's a global consistency. One of the things that we'll talk about today in detail is it needs to be simple. How do you simplify it? You do it the same way everywhere in the world. So that consistency of service, you get the operational efficiency that you need to grow a business and maximize profitability is all done through a single system with one globally consistent solution there. So that's a little bit about floLIVE. Would love to talk to you more. We'll have some info on the offline here. Email or contact us, and we'll be happy to talk to you in more detail.
Thank you, Curtis. I'm going to see if I can get this to get out of our way here before It does not. Just 1 second.
You might be seeing something that we're not seeing, Elisa.
Oh, okay, great. Well, let me
All I
reshare
saw
that.
were the slides on my side.
Oh, okay, good. Well, I apologize. I wanted to make sure that you all weren't blocked with what I was seeing. So sorry, Steve.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you, Curtis, and thanks, Elisa. Good morning, everyone. Steve Higgins, CEO and founder of MobileWare. Been in the telecom arena for 20 years plus now as the founder of MobileWare, starting in 2004. Before that, my career started in the Air Force as a secure weapons operator from a communication standpoint, from air to ground communications, telling the ground forces where the bad guys were. And so we'd go ahead and take care of the business there on the ground for them. What MobileWare does, we start out from perspective of the old days, activating phones on the Sprint or wireless business side of it. We've grown from being the one agent to a master agent, entered into the expense management arena, turned into a full mobility management side of it with help desk. And what we saw, many years ago was all of the activity was around this arena, this area called telematics and machine to machine. And that's morphed into what I like jokingly call this 4-letter word called IoT. I say that tongue in cheek because enterprises, customers, partners know it's what's here, it's what's coming, it's where all the growth is. It's needed, but no one has really in the past has done a really good job of encapsulating it through a complete ecosystem, which is the one thing that we're really happy about in partnering with floLIVE, is the work and the network that they've developed with the open APIs allows MobileWare to really bring that in and give our partners and customers a true single pane of glass and able to manage that entire ecosystem from hardware to connectivity to support to billing all in one. And we can also, we'll talk a little bit more about this in more depth, but happy to be here this morning and look forward to the ability to answer some more questions at the end of this as well. Next slide, Lisa. As I mentioned, one of the things that we've done at MobileWare to really drive our success and growth has been around incorporating the floLIVE network and all the connectivity and the backend systems into our portal that we call Darby. And what that allows us to do from the reseller perspective, as we're turning into this kind of a light MVNO, which Curtis is going to get to here a little bit later, gives us the ability to look at everything in a single pane of glass. So if you think about an enterprise or a customer at the customer level, typically they have to go through 5 to 7 screens logins to pinpoint where an issue may be from a ticket to resolution perspective. We shrink all of that into one pane of glass. What you're looking at here is just a screenshot of a overview of our Darby portal where we show the information about the actual device. We show the information about the SIM card, the connectivity, where it's located, and provide a little much more detail in the screens that flow below. So look forward to sharing a little bit more about that with everyone. Here as the next slides go on. Elisa.
Excellent. Great. I mean, that slide, Steve, I think really captures the next level for what customers need. But we'll talk about maybe some challenges here and kind of build up to what that looks like for customers. I think the ultimate thing that you'll see is that you have a fragmented ecosystem, which is not unusual for kind of emerging businesses, right? There's a lot of people that are bringing technology in. There are a lot of different technologies. If you're a local company and you're national, you probably have multiple MNO relationships, so you have multiple SIM SKUs there. If you're global, it even grows exponentially in terms of SIM SKUs there. Then you have the device components that Steve will bring in there. You've got the different radio access types and technology decisions there. So you have a lot of fragmentation there and a lot of people building solutions there. What hasn't happened in the industry is that making that simple, bringing that fragmentation together. So this is one of the key challenges, and really what leads to what the result of the fragmentation there is you have low profitability. Why is that? One is the operational inefficiency. Number one thing is that I've got all of these disparate systems to bring in and manage, and I've got different ways of doing it with different providers that I have, different hardware that I have. So it makes it really inefficient. That's the number one cause of lowering the profitability there. And then the other thing that we see that is super important to the industry, when you look at who owns the end customer and what they need to support that end customer, they need complete visibility. And what they don't have in the traditional systems is the visibility from the device side all the way through the network and in between, right? So that lack of visibility is also one that allows them, that prevents them from having the better quality of service and being able to provide that end service to their customers, which again leads to an inefficiency from an operational perspective that lowers the profitability as well. So these challenges are ones that we see, and like from our perspective, we wake up every day trying to figure out how do we solve these particular things for customers there. And one of the things that you'll see as we go into the next slide, Elisa, is bringing together the right people, solving it, and really a three-pronged approach is something that we think is really the key to taking the industry to the next level. And if you look at it, of course, the first thing is monetization models, right? Let's figure out the commercial piece first, and that will drive what we do downstream, right? So the operational efficiency, we need to get that in place there. That's a part of the monetization model. But we also need to go back to the beginning and say, who are the people in the ecosystem that we're working with? We're working with mobile network operators. We're working with MVNOs. We're working with OEMs and resellers and hardware providers, et cetera. And how do we bring all of them together with a monetization model that works for everyone? Because if it doesn't work for one person, then we have a broken link in the chain, and we have a broken chain. So the monetization models are absolutely critical to start with. And then we build into the collaboration of the ecosystem to understand what's needed at the end, and let's build back from there. What does the end customer need? What's the desired outcome for them in a rapid way to get them the right information at the right time? How do we build on that from an ecosystem perspective? Who do we need in that ecosystem to build the right level of collaboration, and what kind of tools do they need? This is where it becomes really critical to work with various partners in the industry, because we're modest that we don't have all of the right connections. We don't have all of the right skill sets to work with everyone in the ecosystem. So for us, it's critical to bring in and work with partners like MobileWare that can connect to the other pieces of the ecosystem and have the expertise to support them that we don't have. And all of that leads to, at the end here, is scalability and efficiency. I mentioned a few times already that efficiency is one of the keys that kills the profitability there. Scalability of the solution is tied into that. If you're not operationally efficient, you can't scale, right? In our industry, we're trying to reduce the number of calls. We want things to work seamlessly out the door, minimal touch from beginning to end of the process there. We want to automate as many things as we can. So that scalability and efficiency, whether it's how we build the network, I mentioned earlier that all of our solutions are cloud native, so they are elastic by nature. We build them in the cloud so that things like EKS can be supported there, where you can automatically scale up based on the different demands that you have for solutions there. And then that scalability tied with efficiency of having a single platform, a single solution connected in the same way everywhere in the world that customers like MobileWare can bring in, and then they're doing the same thing at the next level, allows us to build in that efficiency for growth. So this is kind of our three-pronged approach to overcoming the hurdles that we talked about here. And as we go into the next slide, Elisa, please. We'll take a look at how do we build those commercial models, and kind of the normal approach that people would say is that you want to crawl, walk, run. From a floLIVE perspective, with our ownership of the technology, we think we've gone past the first step. We're really starting off with a jog, then we're able to move into a sprint, and the next level is really to go beyond that and fly, if you will. The first step, and Steve mentioned this, kind of there where they are now is the branded reseller there. And I'll say the cons and pros here, I will say, let's put this in a floLIVE perspective here. I think the cons are much less than what you would have with a normal system there, and the pros are much more. But nonetheless, if you look at how do we start, it's really with the lowest investment there, because you got to understand where people are in their business, and it takes time to grow solutions there. But we started off with the branded reseller. It's a super low investment there, fast time to implement. Literally, from our perspective, within a matter of days, you have access to the system, and then build upon integrate your internal systems with our APIs. And then you move into, the next phase of that. Of course, you look at from right to left, and then you'll see that, yes, at the end you have more control there. But this limited control, I would say, is it's limited from a floLIVE perspective. With our APIs, you actually have a tremendous amount of control. You have real-time visibility into everything that's happening from a network perspective there. So it may be limited control, but you have really high visibility into what's happening there. You have a high dependency, but you're dependent on floLIVE as a partner there, which is not a bad position to be in, if I may say so myself. And then as you move into the next level, we're going into a light MVNO. This is where you're getting the access to the system yourself. We're building a dedicated system on behalf of the MVNO. In this case, typically we're hosting it in our environment there, because we have the expertise in managing and hosting network infrastructure there. But it gives the customer more control over the system, more control over scheduling and tailoring the solution to meet their specific application needs there for their downstream customers there. So it's a really good step to really start to that sprint process there. Again, do you have some limited control? Yes, because we're in control of the infrastructure there, and typically in the light MVNO scenario, not all of the network elements are deployed. So it may just be a remote PGW. It may be an HLR HSS or just an SMSC, whatever the situation demands there. So that dependency is still on us, which is not a bad dependency at all. And then we moved into the full MVNO solution. This is where we deploy full core network, that's floLIVE core network, integrated onto local premises. Enhanced customization can be for your particular applications and solutions there. We look at the system from beginning to end, and we can adapt it to what you need. One of the key things here may be your customer needs a PGW within their AWS instance right next to their application, right in their data center, to enhance the security, the performance, the latency, throughput, whatever the case may be. Those are the kind of things that we can do when we get into that full deployment scenario there. And then also from that perspective, now you have flexibility in the pricing models. A lot of our customers work directly with MNOs in that case, so they own the commercial relationship with the MNOs, but they still have the same benefits from a platform perspective that they had from the beginning, right? Now, the cons of this is that now you own the infrastructure there. It's hosted in your data center, so you're assuming those costs. And then also the customer support demands are fully on your end because you're running and managing the network infrastructure yourself. You're working directly with the MNOs there. But this is the fly stage where the expertise is built up. As an individual customer, you're able to go and do all of these customizations and manage it yourself. So it really gives a model to start with where you are and grow to the finish there in as fast and at the pace that you need to grow. And then, if you look at it here, the other piece that happens at the full MVNO level is that you have more cost controls because you're owning more of the piece, that it's more being exactly like a floLIVE at the end of the day. So it's a great model, great progression, I would say, in the models for customers there to start where they are and to get to a point where they're really able to fly and take advantage of all of the benefits of being a full MVNO. All right. So now if we look at, the ecosystem, we go back to more the MNO and why do MNOs want to work with us here? This is really tailored to them. And I mentioned earlier that if we don't have something that works for everyone in the ecosystem, then we don't have something that works for anyone because we can't afford that break in the chain, if you will. So this solution is like, what's the value proposition for mobile network operators that work with floLIVE? First is, the holistic CMP, and I see this typo here, Elisa here. We missed the C in CMP. And but the holistic CMP is really the next generation CMP. It's the cloud native, elastic scalability, low cost solution there that is deployed anywhere in the world. It can be deployed in physical premises and public premises and cloud native premises there, however an MNO needs to deploy it. And then we're able to go beyond borders and allow MNOs to globally expand, which allows everyone else in the ecosystem to globally expand and then pursue new revenue streams as a result of that global expansion or different services that they want to provide with the solution there. So if you look here, if you look at the entry step there that we offer there, first we have our own IMSI, a 901 IMSI from floLIVE that we can just simply turn on a roaming agreement. This is the simplest way for an MNO to start working with us here because it requires no network integration. It's really what they do with hundreds of MNOs already. So adding the floLIVE IMSI to the roaming agreement, zero rate it, we can deploy the platform, allow them to use it. We can consume the services on their network through that agreement as well. And then we use our cloud-based CMP for that solution. And then on the other side, as we're consuming services from the MNO, they're able to consume our services as well through access to our floLIVE IMSI library. So if you think of it, the MNO would get access to our platform. They would be able to provide our platform through our MVNE platform solution to MVNOs and enterprises as well. And then they can also sell their services to us so that we can sell to our customers. So one of the things that you'll hear the floLIVE team talk about is really how do we create this flywheel effect in the ecosystem? And part of that is just that we're building a solution that can be consumed by everyone in the ecosystem, and we bring customers. Mobile network operators have their own customers, and our MVNO customers have their own set of customers that they're able to bring to the table. The next step here, and we look at the optimal hybrid one there, this is where the floLIVE platform, CMP, core network solution can be deployed on premises for an MNO there. Again, what we find is that most of the time people are using the cloud-based CMP as the best go-to-market strategy there. And then likewise with the previous solution, you still have access to globally expand with access to the floLIVE IMSI library. I should note here, like just to explain what that means, the floLIVE IMSI library. That means in places like Brazil, in India, and China, other places that have regulatory requirements for permanent roaming, the MNOs that don't have that with their existing IMSI, because it's not allowed by regulatory, they could actually use our IMSI library to have access to those countries. And that same access is what our enterprise customers get. It's what our MVNO customers get as well. So that's the hybrid model there. And then the next fully private there for MNOs is to have full floLIVE core network infrastructure and CMP, everything on their premises there. We integrate with that because it's our core network infrastructure the same way we do. We put it into our library of IMSIs there. So that MNO is connected into our IMSI library so we can use it. as well, but this gives them that added piece of control, much like we talked about in the previous slide for MVNOs, gives them that added flexibility and control as an MNO here. So this is the model that we're deploying for mobile network operators that, again, is tying into another piece of the ecosystem. So the whole ecosystem has something that works for them. Next slide, please. Okay. Now as we kind of transition and I'll turn it over to Steve after this, is like now we're building this ecosystem and the collaboration across it. And we look at these components on, what does floLIVE bring to the table where we can effectively collaborate with Steve and his team, and then allow them to build into the pieces that Steve will soon talk about to further collaborate downstream in the ecosystem there to really support the end customer. I mentioned earlier our support. This one is really critical there because effectively this is how we make sure that the end customer is completely satisfied with the solution. So we have our support team that works with Steve's support team that ensures that the end customer gets what they need there. We're pulling in our connectivity with our core network so that we have visibility and access and are able to provide a robust and high availability system there from just an overall solution perspective there. And then we're working with Steve and his team, and he's working with the downstream team to ensure that we have devices that work optimally on the network as a whole. And this is one of the key things when we go beyond a local single carrier solution there, and we need a multi-carrier, multi-country solution, bringing in the device and ensuring that the device is interoperable and optimized to work with a global network or a multinational, multi-carrier network versus a single network. This is a really key part of the step for us there. A lot of it's off the shelf for some devices, but when we look at some devices that are maybe going multiple countries at multiple time, we need to optimize the solution there. So we bring in our parts here. This is the key piece for us to really get that flywheel started from an operational efficiency perspective there. And then as we transition here to Steve takes it with the MobileWare team to the next level. So I will turn it over to you, Steve.
Thank you, Curtis. And Lisa, we can go and move forward to the next slide. So kind of piggybacking on what Curtis was sharing with you around the four components of the ecosystem. To have a fully developed ecosystem, there is that one missing key part of it, which is, the SIM, the connectivity is phenomenal, the network, the infrastructure, but every SIM goes into a physical device. And so at some point, you come down to managing that physical device. And what MobileWare has done successfully, and we found our partners and customers really have been able to leverage to even more efficiencies. And I'm going to harp on that, operational efficiencies again, is having everything in a single pane of glass. So what we found as far as the path to profitability is MobileWare, we stood back and we said, we know that connectivity is crucial and everyone needs connectivity, and the simplified connectivity of a single, multi-carrier IMSI provider and partner like floLIVE around the globe. But then it's managing that at the end device level. And you have different devices. Customers typically have a hybrid of device types and OEMs in their environment. So they're also looking for flexibility. And unlike traditional single carriers where those carriers typically force customers to fit in their box, we step back and work with customers and partners to say, what is it you really need? And then we've developed some very, I'll say, kind of creative, data plan pricing flexibility around that, allowing, those customers to have really what they need. If it's the traditional, gigabyte per line that pulls together, or what we call stadium or bucket pricing, where they can have, thousands of SIMs all pulling from one large stadium of data across their ecosystem, their environment, really streamlining their operations and driving down those costs. And what that allows us to do is really also internally, drive that profitability, and then help to extend that cost savings on to the customers and enterprises. We've also found that what has been in great demand across the board, customers don't really want to go through having to go and find their equipment, get any software, manage the software, do the integration, do any kind of configuration, get the carrier connectivity, and then manage all these different components through multiple screens. They want everything as a service. So we stood back and we said, we can really solve that demand and what's needed there. And we brought up a connectivity as a service offering. So we're device agnostic from an OEM perspective. And we've deployed, tens of thousands of different OEM devices endpoints for customers. We offer both the traditional model where they can buy the equipment or they can provide their own equipment. We provide the connectivity. What we've seen more and more, they just want someone that can come in and give them everything from A to Z, equipment, installation, configuration, connectivity, and then monthly management, all at a fixed cost per month across the board over a multi-year agreement. And that's we're seeing tremendous growth and support with the market around that for our customers and our partners. I mentioned some strategic pricing models. That's where we really kind of wrap ourselves around what those customers' needs are if they're just looking for that true connectivity. And an area that I think really gets overlooked in what this webinar is really about is the path to profitability is what I like to call our SIM slot 2 solution or slot 2 solution. Single carrier solutions that are out there, they do well, but they don't have ubiquitous coverage around the globe, obviously, not even here in the US. And what we found is that we can put our SIM in slot 2 and it has a failover. So what was it? A couple weeks ago, AT&T had a large outage across the country. Our customers didn't even experience any of that downtime because it automatically toggled over to slot 2 and they wrote on other carrier connections and we were able to continue the operation. So that's an area we've been able to drive enhanced profitability internally and also drive the ultimate UX, that user experience, that customer experience for their operations so they never had any downtime. Lisa, next slide. Kind of following on in that partnership, and Curtis, I want you to jump in here as well, but one thing we've found is being able to focus on these critical partnerships, the connectivity side, the OEM side, managing all that, putting together our dev team to create our single pane of glass called Darby, which pulls all this in together from the connectivity as a service, the failover, slot 2. We have the full integration with every major OEM manufacturer out there for all data and IoT devices. So we can pull everything in through an API from the equipment side, pull everything from floLIVE side, and give that. What's more is we also have the ability to bring in a complete tech stack for an enterprise. So if you think about a large enterprise that has tens of thousands of devices out there, and they're trying to manage this, they have their own internal team that's going to manage any kind of trouble tickets that come up. If you think about the amount of time that they take having to diagnose from all these different components in their tech stack where the issue is arising from, they have to log into many different systems, look at that, to go, yes, no, is it here? Yes, no, is it there? We can bring all that into Darby as well in a single pane of glass, again, shortening that time from ticket to resolution tremendously for them, and also adding that efficiency. I always preach to my team, every keystroke that we do is a penny out the door. So for a customer, it's the same. If we can bring all of that into one pane of glass, we shorten that time for ticket resolution, drive the internal user experience, more importantly, drive the external user experience for them as well. And that provides just this inherent value that we've been able to do in our partnership. Curtis, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, as you were talking, it reminded me of a slide I used to share, and the slide would have several logos, and it would have, the floLIVE logo in the middle. And for this example, it would have floLIVE and MobileWare, and all of the other logos would be out of focus. And only the floLIVE MobileWare logos would be in focus in this case. And the reason is because we're the ones, all the customers we work with, we're the ones that wake up every day and our sole responsibility is connectivity. Everyone else is using connectivity for some application, some business application, some revenue generated application, but we're the ones that are waking up, focus on connectivity there. And I think exactly all of the pieces you're talking about are really highlighting that, is that what you're doing, what we're doing collectively is focusing on the connectivity piece, on the device piece, simplifying that so that the end customer has something that just works out the door and they can focus on their core business there.
Absolutely. And all that comes back to driving the internal and external operational efficiencies for customers, for us as a reseller or light MVNO, for MNOs, MVNOs. If you can streamline the operations by leveraging platforms and technology and using APIs to integrate everything, that further drives up that profitability for everybody. So.
Excellent. All right, maybe I'll with that I'll wrap it up. Thanks, Steve, for sharing that. I think it's a lot of really good information. Clear that the collective of floLIVE MobileWare is a great solution for end customers there. So thanks for your partnership here. Really, if we look at it, just in summarizing, where we are in the industry. And I think we're at no better time in the IoT industry than where we are today. There's great opportunity for everyone in the ecosystem to really see that hyper growth that's been talked about for just about a decade now. So what we see in general and what this slide focuses on is really taking the legacy concept and modernizing everything. How we do things, how we approach those customers there, whether it's localizing the infrastructure so that we have the right performance for a solution, regulatory compliance there. Do we have a network that's device focused that we can customize to meet the individual application needs? Do we have something that's modern so that when we see surge events, that's automatically elastic with a cloud-based system that's built around microservices where you can build what you need and you can grow over time into what you need for the future there. The piece that we mentioned earlier about visibility, right? Visibility after the fact is not necessarily beneficial, right? If I have an event, I want to know in real time. I want to be able to make actions in real time. So, we've seen this with other models. Getting data on time is really key, and real time is the optimal piece there. So a solution that includes that, whether it's the location, whether it's the firmware on the device, being able to update that and see in real time when it's updated, when it reconnects there. Having that visibility is really important. And then the transparency that we talked about as well, whether it's from a device side or from a core network side and seeing all of the events. That one is really key to bringing in all of the pieces here for the ecosystem. So when you look at the composite of everything that we've talked about today and bringing those together with the ecosystem collaboration, like everyone in the industry is better positioned to maximize profitability, right? If we ultimately get to it there, everything that Steve and I talked about today is really about driving that profitability, because if the profitability is there, then we all have done the things to build on that profitability, and then we are all set up to further grow and experience that hyper growth in the industry that we've expected for some time now. So yeah, thanks, Steve, for your partnership. Thanks for the session today. I think for that, Elisa, I think we can open it up for some questions.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right. Let me pull up our list here. So first question is, most connectivity service providers have CMPs, and a lot of them are IoT focused. What makes the floLIVE CMP different?
It's what I mentioned there at the end there. First, it's modern. Everything that we have is cloud native, from the core network piece all the way to the CMP, the multi-IMSI solution. The fact that we have EUICC for both IoT and consumer is really critical. The other piece that's very different is that we own all of those pieces I mentioned, including the core network. Some people may own the CMP, but not the core network. And that's a significant challenge in the industry. So when you get to the economies of scale, having the right price point is really key from an MNO, from an MVNO, from an enterprise, right? Everybody's going to be cost sensitive because that's a key piece of the profitability there. So having all those pieces and owning them is really critical there, and everything's modern. All of our infrastructure there, we're the first in the industry to deploy a full IoT core network, including the CMP on AWS. We know this because we had some challenges that AWS hadn't faced, and we were able to collectively resolve those. So yeah, that's a key difference. We own the technology. It's modern technology that's built for scale and built for the commercial realities of today, particularly for low power devices there.
That's great. That's great. All right, Steve, next one's for you. I need visibility into device behavior, but I also need support in responding to issues. What can I expect from you? And do you have any examples of where your company was able to resolve complex issues?
Absolutely. So first, we offer both specific drill down into very detailed of what's going on at the device level, from RSSI, every other kind of connectivity, signal strength, configuration, software, firmware. Right from our system, we can dive into that unit itself, go and see if there's any configuration updates that need to be done, where the issue might arising there, and all that is managed with our, I'm going to say, just phenomenal, 24/7 white glove service and support team. So when you reach out to MobileWare, you don't just get a random person that doesn't know your account. You get a dedicated person that's going to really be able to provide that level of service to you. On top of that, we really try to be proactive, and with our system, we can provide what we call watchdogs. So we can have alerts from usage, from connectivity, from has the SIM been taken out of this device? What's going on with the device? And we can bring in everything from the device software portal that comes with every OEM, as well as the connectivity, pull it all together and give the best of all worlds in that one pane of glass.
Yeah, that's great. Do you have any examples off the top of your head of moments, you don't have to share names, but of moments where your team was able to help resolve something that was surprising?
Actually, in our proactive approach, we've been able to many times for clients that have, let's say, kiosks that are deployed across the country, thousands of those. We've found many times where we're telling them something going on at the device level that they're not aware of yet. And then it's nothing to do with the connectivity side of it, but a configuration or firmware that's impacting some of this. So we are able to alert them and work with them in advance and have them kind of rewind some of that updates that may have taken place to get that back, then go back and test those, make sure they're going to work in their environment and do that. So that's one of the things that we were able to do with our overall combined, OEM connectivity and then support level in one pane of glass.
That's awesome. I love that. Thank you. All right. Now let's talk about data privacy and data sovereignty. What concerns should our customers have as they are looking at the new regulations that are coming out, and where should they address those?
Want me to take that, or I'll take it first, and then feel free to add on, Steve. Yeah, look, this is something that we've been seeing in the industry for quite a while. I mentioned earlier that localization of core network infrastructure is a key piece of what we do. That from a data sovereignty perspective, when you look at GDPR, keeping data within country, at a minimum, we can put PGWs in country, in region, as necessary, and even in private facilities, because we own the PGW. Now, when we put it in private facilities, in general, we deploy it regionally and in local countries where we need to localize there. But we can extend that to the edge to customers there, and that ultimately solves any kind of data privacy concerns we have. We have some government entities that say, look, we've got a highly secure solution here. Every bit of the data when the device goes anywhere in the world needs to come back to our data center and directly to our server. So that's what we do. We put the PGWs in their infrastructure there to support that solution.
That's great.
From a reseller perspective, working with our partners, we always recommend minimally putting in a VPN as well, just to further, at a core level, protect that data, isolate it so it's just not out there floating across the internet randomly, and then adding that. So
That's good. So this was not a question, but it's one of my questions. So there's a lot, of course, there's been a lot of talk around AI and the effect that that has with IoT. So even coined the phrase AIoT. So what are you all seeing in regard to, where we're emerging with this artificial intelligence and machine learning? What effect do you think that's going to have going into the next few years? And what should people be prepared for in that regard?
well, I think one of the first things that really stands out to us as an organization is that most IoT devices are not the most secure out there at the edge where they're at. So you're going to see a lot of vulnerabilities. I think that any AI development around this at the device or sensor into the gateway perspective, that's going to flow back to a router modem. You need to make sure the AI is taking all that into account. Obviously, technology is great as it can add efficiencies and let the machine learning to AI, but we just want to make sure that they're not opening up even more vulnerabilities in an already weaker, secure perspective from an IoT sensor perspective.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think when you look at what ultimately AI is, it's taking historical data and it's making educated guesses on future events, right? And capturing things that are anomaly. This to me is like fundamentally what's happened with IoT. Is IoT is about getting data from a remote location back to some place where someone can do some sort of analysis or confirm whatever they need. And we see this as the very simple solution as geofencing for devices. Device goes outside of a location, it reports back. So I think this is already kind of inherent with IoT applications there, and it's something that will only increase. And I think it's an efficiency thing. Well, I always say that IoT solutions are basically business efficiency solutions, and AI is a native part of that, right? It's been done a lot manually now, and AI is really just taking that to an automated fashion there. But yeah, I think that we'll see the growth in AI for IoT there, because we'll see a greater proliferation of data coming from different devices and solutions. Like literally everything is connected now. Your doorbell, lighting systems within houses, lighting systems within communities, and meters and cars, and everything is connected. That means people are getting data, and they're getting that data to plug into AI engines to do some sort of business efficiency or overall efficiency for networks and systems.
That's great. Thank you. So last question here. So we've talked about how to make your business profitable, talked about how the growth in IoT is continuing to increase over time. So what do you think, if you were going to recommend to someone a new vertical to pursue, where would you recommend they turn their attention as you're seeing, a successful matchup between, IoT and those business opportunities? It's for both of you.
Curtis, I'll let you go first.
I'm gonna let you go first. Wow. Every piece of the industry is growing. And it's phenomenal to see. I'm in my 15th year specifically doing IoT, and the size of the opportunities, is 100x what it was 15 years ago. In some cases, 1,000.
Yes.
So what industry? I mean, fleet asset is going continually grow. I think this is kind of the track and trace. Anything that moves is always a good area to be in. Healthcare is continuing to grow. the automotive industry is kind of more now the foundational piece that we see large. This is where kind of the mega deployments have happened. By the way, I think that's an area where we're going to see a significant shift in the solution there for automotive there, that hopefully we'll do a session on that at some point. But yeah, almost in every sector of the industry, every vertical is growing and growing at a rapid pace, because the technology is getting better, because the technologists and the ecosystem partners like MobileWare are much better. 15 years ago, MobileWare wasn't there in the capacity that it is now. And I think Steve would attest to that, where they've gone from 2004 to now is like light years almost. So yeah, I think anywhere you want to focus, there's opportunity.
Curtis, you're exactly right. I remember when we first started, the big rage and craze was the Palm phone. That was, everyone was activating that. Then it was the Blackberries, and roll forward. You diving into your question specifically, Lisa, around what vertical, I think where the opportunity lies for enterprises, for partners, is in whatever area that is truly, that inspires them, that they're engaged in. You can go something from very sleek and sexy like EV. There's so much infrastructure that has to be built out, not just in the electric EV vehicles themselves, but charging stations, the infrastructure, all that has to be monitored and managed. What you can't monitor, what you can't measure, you can't manage. And that's where IoT and AI is going to come in. But then you go something and not as sexy, but people don't really think about, and that is smart ag. With NB-IoT that floLIVE is going to be deploying here in the near future. Think of ear tags that go on cows that are tied to an RFID sensor that they actually have the cow ingest. It's in their stomach and it stays there through the life of the cow. All that gets sent back to a gateway and a router. All that's tracked and managed. You can manage it now with NB-IoT with low orbit satellites. It just there's almost no limits. And before, a couple of years ago, there was no limits. Now there's even fewer limits or hurdles to go through, with the advent of AI, more operational efficiencies, driving down the cost of being able to measure and track. Long ago, you go from, people didn't really measure things at the unit level. They measured them at the pallet or at the container level because it was just too expensive to do it down at the unit level. As technology continues to evolve, and you have between RFID and other sensors that are very inexpensive, almost a throwaway cost, you can measure at the unit level. And again, what you can measure, you can manage, you can drive more efficiencies too. So it's really limitless. And that's what we're finding. We're in every vertical under the sun that's out there, and we're finding new verticals that are being created daily.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you all so much. I appreciate your time today. And we have a great case study that we'll be sharing with everyone after this webinar, but also an ebook about how to improve your profitability with even more tips and tricks that hopefully you'll find helpful in your business. So thank you, Curtis. Thank you, Steve. And thank you for everyone who joined us today. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.